Thank you very much to the mayor, and please make a promise that now that Professor Ganor is taking over the presidency, you will continue to fight the ongoing bureaucracy and allow us to build this university so that we can flourish and not have any red tape. Okay, great. So, it's now my honor and pleasure to introduce you to Colonel Reserve's Miri Eisin. She had a 20-year career in the Israeli intelligence community, such as the deputy head of the Combat Intelligence Corps and intelligence assistant to the Chief of Staff as the Israeli Prime Minister's international media advisor. Eisin is a voice on regional security, geopolitics, and global media. She holds an MA from Haifa University in Security Studies, graduated from the National Defense College. We're sure that you would have studied your master's degree here in counterterrorism, but we didn't exist at the time. So that's okay, but it's not too late to do a PhD here in the School of Government. Her fields are Israeli intelligence, Middle Eastern geopolitics, and media and security and warfare. She will be replacing Professor Boaz Ganor as the director of ICT. And I have to tell you that every single time over the years that we've turned to Colonel Miri Eisin to mentor some of our students in counterterrorism or to take them on field trips, she has kindly taken our students from West Point and from the Naval Academy and from Colorado Springs, the Air Force Academy, to show them different parts of Israel and discuss the security with them. The feedback has always been fantastic. So Miri, you're the right person in the right place. And I'm sure that the incoming president of the university, somewhere in his heart, has some kind of preferential treatment for ICT. So you're in a good place. Good luck in your position.
טוב, אין מה להגיד שאני מתרגשת, אני נרגשת, זה לא סתם לעמוד כאן, ואל מול הדברים שג'ונתן אמר על replacement for בועז גנור, שיהיה ברור לכולם, nobody can replace בועז גנור, אני בהחלט אבוא אחריו במקום המדהים הזה שהוא הקים, מישהו טוען שבשנה הבאה הכנס הזה עליי, ואני אומרת, איפה סטיבי? ואני אומרת, אין מצב, אבל בסדר, שנה הבאה, עוד שנה. I've been so amazed by the international presence at this conference that after my initial greetings to the front row, as you can tell, I'm going to transition into English. I feel that I really want to expand on the International Institute for Counterterrorism in this amazing conference that has been happening for 22 years. Because when we talk about international conferences, we're usually not talking about practitioners, academics, about best practices, about people coming together to both learn, teach, and understand. And it's so unique. And in that sense, what Boaz built here, the mentorship with Shabtai Shavit Zichrono Livracha, that idea of that vision is what I take with me as I look to the future. And with that international point, I can't ignore the fact that it's September 11th. And on 9/11, as an individual inside Israel, and I'm sure that every single one of us knows exactly where they were on 9/11. And interestingly enough, in that sense, at the time, a colonel in the IDF, and I was actually in a field position at the time, and later this morning, we'll be hearing from Benny Gantz, former defense minister, former chief of staff, and I happen to be where he was at that time, and I have very strong memories of his very calm, quiet voice, and essentially saying, in 2001, the world just changed. And here we are 22 years later. Why am I mentioning that? Because what I want to talk about in the next few minutes is the 22 years since, because we're looking into the future. And I want to remind us all as we're sitting here right now, the 22 years is a generation. I'm going to be rude and mean right now. I don't think that inside this room is a single person who is the age of 22 and under, maybe some of our international students here, Jonathan, but in general. When I'm talking here to the practitioners, to the academics, even to the students, certainly when it comes to Israel, in Israel the students are going to be over the age of 22 because they served in the Israeli military, and we have a very large contingency of those here at Reichman University, and we're all very proud of that. But I want you to think about that for a moment in a different way. Do you understand that people who are 22 have no memory of this event, that for them it's something that happened a generation ago, then in its own way they look at 9/11 as kind of similar, and excuse me for the comparison, in a lot of different ways, to World War II, or to, in a good way, the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's history, it's ancient, it's something which isn't really part of where they live in today's day and age. And on that note, I want to take us into a broader sense, into things that both Professor Melnick spoke about today, and also things that we heard yesterday from a variety of different amazing speakers. And I want to talk about the Middle East, North Africa, and even Africa in that sense. If we're talking about migration, about the challenges of where we live right now, let's talk about the arena from Morocco that went through that horrible earthquake, but from Morocco through Iran, pretty much from North Africa down to the south. We're talking about populations where in every single country, and go and check me after that, and yes, there are always exceptions, all of these countries, half of the population is under the age of 25. If we're talking about securing the future, if we're talking about the global challenges within this world, and I love what was said yesterday also about the combination of, you said security, no, you said terrorism, extremism, and organized crime. And I put it within those terms as they were said yesterday, because let's think about the future of a population that half of them are under the age of 25. What kind of a future do they have? What kind of expectations and hopes do they have? And let's connect it into this issue of looking into the future of what's going to happen next year or in 5 and 10 years when you have endless countries, endless, there's a number to them, that are in this arena that we live in, that what they brought to the world in the last decade, in that decade after 9/11, was, as mentioned yesterday, both by the head of the Mossad and by the former Chief of Staff Eisin, what did they bring to the world? Daesh. What did they bring to the world? What was the invention of this enormous young generation in that last decade? Something that we're all sitting here and thinking how we counter that. And I want us to think about that aspect of terror, extremism, and organized crime, and half the population under the age of 25. Because when we talk here about the practicing of what we do against terror, we may be inadvertently adding more people into what I'm going to call the cycle of extremism. When we try to address the issue of extremism, we're talking about education at its heart. But how much do we actually impact the education of those that we want to impact? When we're looking at the challenge of under 25-year-olds, and especially today when we're looking at that combination of terrorism together with extremism connected into organized crime, and you look within every single one of the countries, there's a large representation here of different European countries. The flow of migrants. So what's the term that we use? Do we say refugees? Do we say migrants? Do we say economic migrants? Are they all coming just to find a job? We want to hope so. Are they coming for a better future? We want to hope so. We need to understand the underlying aspect. And as I say that in that sense, the last point that I want to put onto the table is again about those under 22 or under 25-year-olds. So amazing people who have come here from all over the world. Aside from my under 25-year-olds that there are here inside this audience, how many of us are on TikTok? How many of us have watched TikTok terror? How much of us do we understand the absence in that sense of our own presence, our own understanding of what I'm going to call, and I decided to invent a term on the first time that I'm standing here on the stage, which is really in its own way ridiculous of me because I'm just starting here in that sense. Because I want to talk about a term I'm inventing right now, the terror vibe. We don't think of terrorism when we're looking at it from the outside as something that has a vibe. But when we're talking about something that brings people into the room, that makes them feel important, that makes them feel that they're taking action, I remind all of us what we know. When you're recruiting into a terror organization, you don't say, hi, come on in, kill people, cut off their heads, let's do terror. That's not the way it's being done. And when we look at social media, and I'm specifically talking about TikTok because we have that in our arena. We have enough challenges on our table when we're trying to define terrorism and trying to understand the different aspects of what it means. When we take Professor Ganor's very important definition of what is terror and we take it into this world, and I look and I go, so the 20-year-olds who are filming themselves doing terror attacks, who are putting it together with music, who are going out and showing all of these different people, hey, what I'm doing is a terror vibe. It's cool. Come on and help me, because they're not calling it terror. I want us to remember that terminology and to look at it, because what are the terms that the younger generation? So I'm an American football fan, which is a terrible thing to be in any case. And yesterday I was watching American football late at night, because you can if you want to. And in it there was a commercial. And in it I was watching one of the quarterbacks who's in all of his 40s. And he was laughing about the fact that he totally does not understand what TikTok is. And I thought to myself of this room here, because TikTok is not just about all sorts of fun, funky things. It's about a vibe. It's about an idea. It's about bringing people into the room. When we're securing our future, we need to be in the future of the under 25-year-olds, where they're looking at what's bringing them into the room, what makes them vibe. And what I hope over these next 2 days, as I've been listening from yesterday to today, is that we will continue to be able to do so. I am inheriting, I am being honored by getting this amazing institute that knows how to bring a conference that is unheard of partnership, of cooperation, of understanding. And my hope in that sense is that all I can do, and here I can just say, wow, thank you, Boaz, for choosing me, for allowing this, and for allowing this amazing congregation of people to come together, to network together, to think together. Let's continue to be relevant, looking into the future, into that future of that enormous youth bulge, and to give them, I want to leave perhaps on a note of hope. Yeah, they invented Daesh, but let's look into that future and be aware of the different aspects of trying to invent something that's hopeful, trying to invent something that is a different future. So again, I very much agree with what Professor Melnick said here about the weeds. So there will be weeds, but let's have the bulk of them. Cut down the weeds so that we'll be able to live in a better, safer future. Thank you all so much. I hope we all have a wonderful conference.